Welcome to the Junto Men's Podcast, where we take a deep dive into all things related to men. We explore how to go from good to great, from high performers, and also aim to provide a shining light if you're experiencing darkness in your life. Grab a pen and paper and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I was keen to find out how you went up.
All right, so for everyone that's met me and those that already know me, my name's Luke. Mick asked me to come along and lead tonight's chat around and base it around relationships and intimacy. And like a little bit of background, Jace already knows, I've been like a sex educator for the last 3 years. I've spoken all over Australia, run the sex education stage at Sexpo this past 12 months, and I've been working with couples and individuals to help them, I guess, deepen their experience of intimacy. And I hit record. Yeah. And deepen their experience of intimacy, feel safety and expansion, and also like lean into their edges a little bit. I think like why it's important to me is that we get to a certain point in our life where as teenage boys, we wrote this dirty sex novel, this dirty story about, who we're into, what we're into, what they look like, and life goes on. And sometimes we find ourselves still stuck in that same story, unsatisfied with what we're actually experiencing. So it's been a big calling for me because me myself, I've lived a life that I was relating with beautiful people, amazing people, but wasn't full of passion. There wasn't intimacy. I wasn't intimate with myself. I didn't love myself as well. And the turnaround to that was a divorce. It was drug addiction, recovery, mental health stuff, and then rebuilding my life based around passion, based around pleasure, because we're all deserving of pleasure in my mind. And as a man, one of my favorite versions of pleasure is sexual pleasure. So I guess why we're here is because sex education in high school failed us. Like, can we all agree to that?
Yes,
I remember getting taught like how to put a condom on a banana, like how not to get an STD, how not to have an unplanned pregnancy. Like sexual abuse is terrible, which it is. They're all important things, but at no point do we get taught about, conflict resolution, how to have like conscious, healthy conflict, communication tools, about needs and desires and fantasies, pleasure practices, like how to actually give and receive pleasure in, a high quality way, in a conscious way, how to have like challenging conversations around sexuality and how to regulate your nervous system amongst all of that sort of stuff. That would have been pretty valuable for me as a kid. Growing up, we get basically that very small version of sex education in school, and it's for cause, it's for a reason. I understand why that's their version of sex education. However, we're then left to develop our handbook on relationships and intimacy through what we've seen through our family sometimes, which often isn't always that good, through media, TV shows and movies, rom-coms, music, which is all pretty much just codependent bullshit most of the time, fairy tale, or our mates. And to be honest, growing up, my mates knew jack shit as much as I knew jack shit. We'd share stories about that one cousin who once spit roasted a chick and this is how they did it. And, it's
Heroes.
heroes. And it's bullshit. It's like, did you know there's 3 holes? No way. And, so there's all this like hearsay and ambiguity and vagueness, but there's not a lot of really juicy conversations about intimacy happening outside of the bedroom compared to what's happening inside of the bedroom. I remember growing up as a rugby player, me and my mates, we'd do all sorts of twisted fun shit when the lights are out that there's no chance to be willing to have a talk about in the kitchen over a dinner. So that's my why. Does any of that land with everybody? Anybody? No? Important conversation to be having. Yeah. Cool. So what I want to do is, first things first, I want to regulate our nervous systems. Okay, so I'd like everybody to sit back in your chair, land your feet on the ground, roll your shoulders back, land your hands on your lap, maybe palms facing up, palms facing down, whatever's good for you. And I want you to take some breaths in through your nose. I want you to notice the temperature coming in through your nostrils is a bit cooler. Temperature on the way out through your nostrils is a little bit warmer. I want you to start to deepen your breath. Nice, big, long, deep breaths. I want you to start to pull that breath into your belly. Blow a balloon up behind your belly button. Three of those. Cool. When you're ready, open your eyes again. And notice if there's any change in your nervous system regulation right now. Yeah. That's one of the best things that I can start to teach kids about conflict in relationships. Getting out of your head and into your body and just consciously using your brain to say, I'm going to send my big breath to my tummy right now. By design, stops you from thinking all of the thoughts that are cycling through your rebuts. They said this, I should say that. If you just stop, take a big breath, then you have to put your conscious thought into that breath. Okay, and that one tool about conscious breathing is, in all of the work that I've done over the years, key to conflict, key to intimacy, getting out of your head. Am I going to get it up? Like, I'm not going to get it up again. Oh my God, I'm going to come too quick. Shit. Again, getting out of your head and into your body, using your breath to settle in, sink in. Me and Michael had like a really epic experience a couple of weeks ago, a very extreme experience of getting out of your head and into your body. But the lessons from that experience were like solidifying in what I just said. It's to really, really get out of your head and let your body lead. And Josh is excellent at facilitating people to learn how to use their breath to be able to do that as well.
We're coming to the next one too, so sign up. Massive fun. Sure.
I asked you.
No, I know, but I was in my head.
Yeah.
But I'll work through that shit.
Yeah.
Pump it up and up.
Hey?
Pump it up and up.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, we're talking about doing maybe our own version of something a little modified around that. But yeah, what I want to know from all you guys is hands up if you're in a relationship. Hands up if you've got something in your relationship that you would love to be more full, better, whatever word you would like to use.
Sexually.
Anything, relationship, sexually. Yeah. Cool. Would everyone be comfortable with that, like a little spiel on what that might be? Just so I know who we're talking to. Cool. It can be the relationship that you have with yourself, dating.
Well, not
Past
just recently out of
relationship.
one, and I think it'll be something of value to bring to the next one. I think it's probably the missing, like I realise very much, if you're not at a certain of yourself, you won't be able to bring anything deeper than that next time round. So I'd rather not repeat previous fuck-ups and have a crack at, emotionally healthy relationship. It would be fun. So definitely, and the connection is valuable. Yeah, single or otherwise.
Sure.
So I feel like context is important. I don't know if you want to share a bit more about couple of relationships, long-term relationships, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that would- is that what it is, or that's-
Oh, I'm happy to share, definitely.
I don't know if that's important.
Yeah. Like, well, you tell us what we need to know.
Okay. So
Give us the 2-minute version of what we need to know.
also, I guess I'd always get asked for quality time and always get asked for more presence and more depth. And I thought I was being pretty, although I thought I was giving as much as I could in terms of depth, in terms of whether I thought that was what she wanted to hear from me in compliment terms, whether she wanted to hear into, or what she would like me to show up as, I suppose, at that point. But I spent a lot of time in stress and overwhelm and just burnt out all the time. I had a lot to juggle. I had an ex-wife and co-parenting with, I had all this stuff around. So I think for the best of what I was physically capable of at the time, the nervous system piece is important. I think I tried, but I just couldn't get to this certain point where it's like, she could be crying in front of me and I just couldn't be like, oh, that's unfortunate for you, but I couldn't feel it. Like, I was incapable of anything. So I just couldn't feel anything that wasn't directly affecting me. That was like my emotional range was, if my day got fucked up, I could feel that. But if someone else's did, I was like, oh, I understand why that shit for you, but I felt zero, like nothing landed. I was very numb, to be fair. So I guess when I was getting asked to like do something meaningful, do something nice, do something caring, do something, like write me just a loving message, say, it was, I found it hard to even do it. Right? So I guess I learned very quickly. I think it's because I didn't have much emotional capacity or depth in general. And so I spent a lot of time trying to do that. And I guess this is one of the areas that these guys spoke about last week, just briefly. And I went, that's my biggest area of challenge. And I've learned starting to do stuff. The more challenging something is, the more you grow from it. So this is probably the sex part more so, but like in general, connection is like the thing that I'm learning heaps more layers to than what I thought I had. I thought I was connected, and now I'm doing like, even in a few months, I'm like, I have more connection with strangers that I meet now in 20 minutes than I had in 3 years in a relationship. So I don't know if that's relevant or whatever, but that was where I was at.
Remarkable. Very well said.
Super relevant, dude.
Yeah, very relevant.
Super relevant.
What do you got?
Communication.
Communication.
Yeah, so something I do, is when things get a bit stressful, get a bit too much, I tend to withdraw. I don't want to talk. It's really, really bad at it, something I'm working on. But I call it my default because if I'm not conscious of it, get it up in my own head, I default and go in. And I need my partner, my wife, to pull me up out of it. And so that's something I'm working on to have that circuit breaker click off. So when this happens, that I can have that communication with her that's open, clear, concise, to the point, not beating around the bush as well. That's another thing with when I withdraw. I like to beat around the bush with things. How are you feeling today? Oh, that I'm not justified for something, and just try and move around the actual issue. So when I need to go straight into the issue and say exactly how I'm feeling and not beat around the bush and not try and sugarcoat it. So something I'm working on. Something I want to improve on as well for myself, not just with my marriage, but the way that I show up, with you guys here as well. Being around the bush when we're talking here, I do that a lot. At work as well. Yeah, I was talking to you about just before, being honest and truthful in communication, whatever the result of that is.
Yeah, it's kind of super relevant as well. Thanks for sharing that. And it's something that I've seen like in most relationships, and probably because it's human nature, is that when we do tend to care about somebody in whatever capacity that is, then we can find ourselves beating around the bush, like people pleasing a little bit, for fear of what reaction they might have to whatever it is that we're sharing. Even if it's like, hey babe, I'm having a really hard time at the moment, I'm finding myself withdrawing, like be like, I know that will have an impact on them, like they'll be worried about me, they might be, you know, they might be hurt, oh my god, it's happening again, like whatever it might be. We deny them our truth for fear that it will trigger them. But what we're really doing is denying them the opportunity to grow through that trigger if it does happen. And we're denying ourselves the ability to get out of that mental loop that's soothsaying and guessing and mind reading about what may happen, what might be, compared to this is my truth. You know, this is the fact, this is how I'm feeling, this is my needs around it. And then that person has the opportunity to have their response or their reaction. It's super challenging because, like, as men especially, we're like caretakers, like providers all of the time with that stoicness in us. We maybe don't want to be so direct and beat around the bush because we feel like it might make their experience easier. But in my experience, it makes everyone's experience harder.
It feels counterintuitive.
That's for me, dude. I was like that.
Yeah.
Heaps. It completely be like,
Yeah,
instantly shut down, back, that, stop. And it'd be like, if I did anything that would like upset someone or something, that'd be like people pleasing 100%. That was like me all over. It's been very hard with staff now, trying to make staff, because you're like, I have to tell you you fucked up, or I have to give you something to do better than how you're doing it, but I don't want to break the bad news that you fucked up there. But every time I've done it properly and like actually forced myself to, I had a guy that was a real pig-headed dude that worked for me, and he was so fucking abrasive. So, and for a year, every day he'd bring me, and we have to have conflict every day for a year. So I got quite good at having healthy conflict eventually. But yeah, but fuck, that's all me, dude. That was heaps me.
Yeah.
Josh?
So I'm brutally honest. So I'm like, you guys are here and I'm over here. So I've had to learn to communicate so much better, which I definitely have affected. And the things that are awesome for me is not only the relationship with my wife, but my relationship with the kids, is being able to have each of them get to a level of confidence within themselves, which had to happen with my wife as well, where they can call me out on that shit. Like, that's actually super fun, super triggering, super crazy, and super quick to learn from. When you've literally got somebody that is your mirror calling you out on, hey, you've been a dick today. Like, you truly been a dick today. And then having to sit there and go, yeah, well, I actually am. And then working out what that is. So a perfect example, like for me to preface it, is just recently I've started with a test booster, right? Which is Tonkat RLE, which is the root, right?
Love it, yeah.
So I was like, yeah, cool, I'm going to give that a go. So prefaced it with Carrie going, I'm just about to go on a test booster. I don't know what's on the other side of this. Obviously, my testosterone levels are going to rise, okay? And that could bring out old Josh, 20-something-year-old Josh, 30-something-year-old Josh, who is not so emotionally regulated as I am when I'm, completely clean, calm, and know exactly where I am. Right? So that's been interesting because I've been doing that for the last 3 to 4 weeks. And having Carrie go, I actually enjoyed it when you were sick last week. And I'm like, oh, why is that? She said, because you weren't on Tonkat. And I was like, interesting, very good. And like when I got back on it this week, very good. But the serious story, right, is when I got back on it this week, I was like, Monday, I said, Carrie, it feels like I'm a coffee. And I didn't think about Tonkat, right? Like, I feel like I'm coffee. Like I feel it in my brain, I feel it in my body. And then it was Tuesday, and I'm like, oh, I still like feeling a little bit agitated. Why am I pissed off at Peter and Lucas? Like, who is doing the same shit all the time, but today, like, it's really fucking bugging me. Yeah. And why am I sort of like a little bit short with that purchase of dicking me around? Like, and then I just went, Tonkat, okay, so now I know where the level is. Now I've got to try and regulate that. But if I didn't have the feedback from my wife, whatever, because that never used to happen, she was just like, her communication method was shut down, don't talk, because that's what she learned, that was her conditioning. nobody talks about their feelings or anything in our family, and that's how we communicate. Whereas me, I was like, because that's how I communicate, is literally just put it all out there and hope for the best. So being able to bring that together with a whole heap of growth. Now, Carrie and I have been together since we were 15, 42 now. So there's been many, many versions of Josh over the last 20-something years, and we're still learning every single year in the new version. I'll come back from the ceremony in a few weeks, and there'll be another version of Josh that we're going to have to work through. But being able to have that, the most exciting part, the most challenging part, is leveling up at a brand new level. And that's the part I really enjoy, but fucking painful at times as well. So I think communication is number one.
Yeah.
You can be a brilliant communicator, but when you're tired or you're on Tomcat or something like that, you can revert to something else, and all of a sudden, all the communication in the world, if it's not delivered the right way, then we have this conversation all the time, carrying myself. Like, I'm like, yeah, and she says something, right? I'm like, that the way you delivered that actually really triggers me. So I want to tell you why it triggers me, but then can we talk about how we can maybe change the way that you're delivering that so it doesn't trigger me as much, and then I can work on my triggers so that if you do have to deliver it a certain way, then this is where I am. So communication is like the number one thing in my relationship that is the most challenging, but is also the most exciting part of the relationship.
3 out of 3, communication.
Yeah.
What do we got?
This might seem a bit shallow, but mine, I reckon, is attraction. So my wife, I'll take a bullet for. Like, she's the best mum, best human. I'm in the trenches. I've got a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and she's got a full-time job. The kids are just fucking lame. So when it comes time to jumping in bed, I'll take you back. When I married her, she was about 50 odd kilos. Now she's about 70 odd kilos. She's open. She goes, I'm 20 kilos bigger. I'm a 20 kilo bigger version of me, man. And you've got to be polite. You've got to, like, you are, but no, you don't want to say that. And so where I find myself, I'd just say, okay, I'd sooner have a wank on the lounge watching porn. And I love crawling into bed with her and cuddling and going to sleep every night. That's beautiful. She's my wife. I love it. Yeah, it's just, and it makes me sad because I want to lust after her like I used to, but I'm also a realist as well. I'm older than that. But it's hard, like comparison again, like being the thief of all happiness. Like you look at some of your mates' wives and you go, fuck, she's got kids and she's, yeah. So I don't know, it might seem a bit vain and shallow, but it's 100% a thing in my house. Like, and even you might be able to, a lot more, like porn addiction. I would 100% go and wank. I did it today. I wank on the lounge so I won't have that urge later. Yeah. And shit, her drives down as well. Like she's busy. Like she's got, like it's nuts. And occasionally she'll want to scratch behind the ears, and I'll, do it. And it's not what it used to be, and that's sad.
Yeah, that's actually one of the, like, apart from communication, is the other biggest topic that I talk to guys, couples about, is, I guess, like, some people use the word libido. That's one of the things that I messaged Mike about, possibly talking about tonight. The libido mismatch. A lot of the times in relationships, like they want it more than me, or I just don't seem to even have libido for them. It's often the thing, like someone will say, I don't have libido, and I was like, but are you attracted to other people? Or like, do you like watching porn? Do you like touching yourself? And it's like, oh yeah, but like, not them. It's hard because you love them. Yeah. And like, respect them. But it's just that missing piece around desire and intimacy.
And she's very apologetic. She like goes, oh, I sort of, and she's doing a thing for herself to get better as well. But she goes, I wish I didn't look like that. She goes, I don't feel sexy. And yeah, it's hard for me to go, well, I don't find you sexy anymore either, but I'm not that brutal, but yeah, she's aware of it as well. Like and she goes, it's not like I don't want to have sex with you. And like, we're time for it. It's, we're prioritizing other things. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. If we were to be sitting down and you and I would having a session about this, it would be focused, like your homework moving on here would be a big focus on your self-pleasure and getting probably away from porn and bringing a lot more pleasure and intimacy back to you. And like, rather than seeking that from your partner or from the screen, that's really bringing it back to you. And a lot of the self-pleasure practices would be, I've got like a 10-day fucking online program that I can send to you, but it would be a lot of like finding just becoming super attracted to yourself and to your body and to your pleasure practices. And the switch then flicks from, oh my God, I want to share this with somebody. It's not that I need them to be a certain thing. It's like, fuck, I've got this eros just rumbling through me and I want to share this pleasure and passion with somebody. That's my chosen person. And then we build up a lot of like non-sexual intimacy practices. Like you said, I love the cuddles. So that would be the stepping stone to intimacy, is building up, like a non-sexual intimacy within the relationship. So there's that charge there. And working with that. So I was going to wait until we get around and I'll expand on it after we do. But the way that I work.
I'm my tongue over here because I'm fucking super excited for it.
Yeah, it's going to be
really super excited for you.
Yeah. That was very brave and vulnerable thing to say. Not shallow at all.
It feels shallow.
I've been exactly where you are. I've actually had that same conversation, but maybe just in my head, not out loud.
And I think honestly, I just fucking mad props to you, because to go with like Jay said, sometimes we find it hard to get to the level and get the conversation early in the conversation. Yeah. And you just went right there.
Yeah.
Fucking love that. That's so good, and like super proud of you. And what you have said, I don't think is anything that anyone around this table would not have thought or said before, and what probably just about every single fucking man and probably relationship out there has or is experiencing. So this is for you, but man, you are not alone in that.
Oh, it's such a super sexy roadmap to go with that, which is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And you're right, like this is why I'm not going to go there, but you're good. Okay, like you're good.
They've got to be willing to.
Yeah.
Well,
Process.
Yeah.
He'll work with that.
I've had this conversation with actually another member of the Junto just last night, who is signing up to work with me, and he was like, "Can this relationship get better if it's just me doing the work?" And I said, absolutely, it fucking can, because the process is through inspiration.
Yeah.
The process is through like working on yourself, making positive change for pleasure, passion, intimacy for yourself and with yourself, and through inspiration and like magnetism, it just naturally happens. Has any of you guys read the 5 Love Languages? Yeah, and he talks about like understanding your partner and understanding yourself and doing work to just purely build connection with your partner. And it's undeniable that when you do start to do that, they can't help but notice and be like, wow, something's changed over here. What's going on?
It's the whole lead first thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I saw my separation, well, I saw the divorce too, but actually, like where she kept going, you need to work on this, you need to work on this, you need to work on this. So I was like, all right, I will. And again, all right, you fuck up, you work on that. All right, I will. All right, and again, and I'd keep doing it, but she wouldn't follow. I was like, all right. But now, finally, unfortunately, it took it getting the separation for it to happen. But now I've continued on that, and she has too. It started her off because she finally went, okay, I have shit too. and finally did it. Now, unfortunately, we took separation. You guys were all still in it, so I can go you guys. But yeah, it finally got there, pulled her there eventually. It took it out. It outlived the relationship, sadly, but I pulled her along eventually. But yeah, and it did. It helped teach because then I was the one that was quite often not communicating. I was like, I just couldn't fucking do a hard combo ever. It'd be like, and she'd be fucking up. I go, oh, I'm not gonna say that. That'd be shit. But weirdly enough, now spoke to her again recently after separating. Had a proper conversation. Connection was there, and then the chemistry was back. But it was gone for like the last 6 months. It was just fucked. It was gone. So I actually think I don't know if like with you when you say the physical part, my physical attraction died when we weren't. We were just disconnected.
Yeah, I'll wrap back around to that for sure. But absolutely, thank you for that. To be honest, it doesn't even always have to be physical either. I remember like I had like the most smoking hot fit partner, and they weren't taking good care of themselves in other parts of their life, and the attraction fell away from me. But again, it was me looking at what they were doing to validate my level of attraction. But yeah, there's a big process in that. And thank you very much for sharing.
Let's start with this one.
Just take a deep breath in through your nose and pick the most important thing.
Well, probably for me at the moment, like there is no intimacy at all, like very minimal in the relationship. So we've had a little girl 12 months ago, sort of thing. Up until that point, yeah, there was heaps. Like there was heaps, and now it was just like it's all turned off, and we just find ourselves clashing all the time now as well.
So you've got a 12-month-old.
Yeah, I've got a 12-month-old child. I think there's heaps more to it. Like I've come out of a previous relationship to that, of marriage. We were together for 15 years, 2 kids, and that ended pretty bad. And like that sort of smashed me for a long time. And so I'm kind of dealing with that still at the moment, and like with kids, and I think it's coming into this relationship a lot. Yeah, so but I don't really know what direction it's sort of going on at the moment. We're sort of, just seem to be in a bit of a clash all the time, and it goes good, and then something comes up, and then we might disagree on something. It could be like something stupid we disagree on, and then we seem to go back. You know what I mean? So. And the intimacy is just out of it in that regard.
Yeah.
We're both busy. Like I work a lot. She works. She's a mum and everything like that. But yeah.
Yeah, that conflict cycle is like a massive top block to intimacy.
I think too. Like I shut down a lot when I like in conflict. I think I just go shut down mode and like talk or anything like that. I think someone said it before, but that's how I was. I think that's from my family. Like that's how we used to deal with conflict. No one says anything, no one talks to anything to each other.
Yeah. Do you find if you're in conflict, or there's conflict around, then you still desire intimacy, or do you really need that space?
No, if it's conflict around, just
Yeah.
we'll have to deal with that. Some of these.
Yeah, fair enough. I've seen a lot of men who have had that experience, get a lot of growth through exploring connection in conflict, like physical connection, even if it's just holding your partner, coming back together through connection to get out of that conflict cycle is regulating the nervous system, depending on what upbringing you've had, which sounds like it is that, like if people are arguing, then we don't talk about it. The opposite side of that mirror is often connection through conflict.
Yeah, well, it's sort of probably from my old man a lot, like just never talk about feelings or anything like that. Like it was pretty pretty strict and pretty old school, like, you know, to not talk about feelings that just don't exist, type of thing. So, yeah.
I've got a link that I'll send you to like a recording that I did of a workshop called Fighting to Fucking. I'll send it to you. Just watch it. That's great. That's
great.
Yeah, that's super brave to be able to say as well. Like, 12 months after, daughter's born, we're not having any intimacy really at all. It's a pretty brave thing to say in front of a bunch of guys, I think.
You've just met, by the way.
Yeah.
First session there. Well,
Yeah.
Big first
Yeah.
session.
It's so funny because like it's not usually like this where we like just go through the table, and so it's like I'm just so happy that we're just like Luke has enabled everyone just to go straight there, rather than come in and talk and then we sort of all like nod our heads and yeah, that sounds really good. And it's like, all right, cool. Like, where are you at?
Right,
Where are you at? It's like, oh fuck, I've got to talk.
but this is how I run an embodied training or workshop. This is not a training, this is a conversation, but there's a framework to it. Right? It's the what, the why, the how, and the what if. So, the what was me saying, we didn't get taught fuck all. Why is it important? Because we're all explaining how we're in some way finding some challenges in our relationships. The what is the bit that comes after. And then the what ifs is when you guys all get to say, yeah, but that won't work. Me? Tried that before. And you get to round table that. Okay. The other side of it is engage with the topic, which we all did, had a good chat. Engage with yourself. We all had a breath. We're now engaging with each other. And then we engage more deeper with the conversation that comes afterwards. So this is how I do it. I might not do it like everybody else, and you might not like my version as much, but this is how we do it. This is how we get deep into the topic. So thanks for playing my game.
You're perfect how you are, Luke. How you present. Go. I think probably the biggest one for me is prioritizing, I guess, the time and space for myself to then ensure that I'm prioritizing the partner and having high quality problems. High quality problems, as Luke likes to call them. So just making sure that we were really good, and then like all good relationships, you decide to renovate. And there's nothing that destroys intimacy in a relationship like renovations.
The babies.
Or babies. And so that just and just through that cycle, going through different things, and we're good. We're good, but I guess it's like when things get stressful or when things get full, just making sure that doesn't get lost. And like I said, the podcast doesn't just get put in the drawer and just go, I'll come back to it. It's like, no. Like, how do we prioritize that? So, because we lost our date night, we renovated, we lost our date night, some babysitting issues and stuff like that. And so, it's like, all right, we needed to find a different avenue to create space to do that. And both of us were just off. But for me, I think a lot of it I lead. And like I said, it's up to us to lead. It's up to the masculine to raise up the feminine. And so without it becoming a burden, just making sure that I'm creating a space for myself, that's important, because it is a big priority. So it makes you feel really good, and it makes when you do have, I think for me, when you do have good intimacy, half the rest of your problems in life just disappear. So it's like, how could I make half? If you said, how can I make half the problems disappear? And you said, just be more intimate with your partner. It's like, oh fuck, never would have picked that. So just making sure, create a space to prioritize.
Yeah, when you're having like these high quality conversations around intimacy and pleasure or communication or like kind of like healthy parts of the relationship, talking about who's taking the bin out becomes like, well, you do have like a little tip, but you know that you had like really strong intimacy last night and that you've got that available, you know, in the next few days, then it's like, oh, it's just a tiff. But when there's a lack of intimacy, every tiff feels like it's putting you even further away from having that super connected relationship that you really want. Yeah. Also, something that I wanted to mention is something that's not taught really at school or talked about either, is that when women have children, their body produces a hormone that actually decreases their libido and increases their stress responses. Because you think about way back in caveman days, for us to thrive as a species, when they had a newborn baby, they didn't want mum thinking about when she was going to get her next fruit. You know, who was going to put the strap on tonight, or you know,
She had strap-ons back in the.
of course they did.
They're a little bit more racist.
If I was a caveman, they would have.
When was the
It's
first
just
time?
amazing what you do with fine the stick.
Hey, you find a smooth rock in the stream.
That's it, man.
When was the first known?
I'll find out. I'll let you know.
I actually want to know. I do. Got homework. They're losing.
Going in the joint. But like,
First one.
so they won't think they're not supposed to be driven by sex, and their nervous system's jacked because they're searching for danger. They're in like what they call the endocrine nervous system cycle. So every 4 times a second, their body's scanning for danger. And if danger is you or the dishwasher or like whatever it is, that next fight, that next conflict, they're ready for it. So that first 12 months, hormonal wise, that's the thing.
Well, it happened to me. Not Carrie. It happened to me from the time she was pregnant to at least like 2 years. I was just like, I just fucking can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
A lot of like flip flops.
Yeah.
It's even who I hear it from.
She was on. And I was just like, no.
That's apparently
No. My number one priority right now is these kids.
And that's probably like it is 50-50, like on the experience side of it. Maybe someone's more aware of it in the relationship and they're like, oh, this is just like this is what I'm going through right now and I can still be that. And other people are just responding. And if there's 2 people just responding, then literally you guys are just in a 12-month stress response.
Yeah.
So
I think is it prolonged while they're breastfeeding as well?
breastfeeding, absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hormonal
Yes.
change.
Yeah.
You're literally becoming a human milk factory. That's the only thing that your body is worrying about is keeping this child alive.
Honestly, my business partner Sindra works mainly with women. Her books are full of women who stop breastfeeding and they're all of a sudden like, holy fuck, I'm a sexual being again. What do I do with this?
Our big one was going from years of being on the pill to having children to being on the other side of that and Carrie reverting to what she was like before she was on the pill and then going, oh wow, that was the problem. And then just like literally become a sexual beast directly after and just going, you should have got a vasectomy earlier.
I don't think there's too many components of the pill these days, is there? Besides doctors.
Not really. It's a big movement away from it, like moon cups and all the different or natural versions of contraception.
If you talk to any female coach that knows her stuff, like Sam was doing all of that work after Cara or during Cara and stuff, and yeah, like for me it was like just trying to hold space and create space, and then allowing her the time to work through whatever she needs to work through. But I think there's ways kind of around it as well, and it's just fulfill both needs versus just like stopping everything and nothing's happening in that space till I hopefully get it back out of the drawer, which is essentially like part of it as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You got to do the work.
Yeah, you gotta do the
You
work.
gotta, you gotta be doing, and you gotta be doing
double down on it.
the right work at the right
That's right.
times for sure. So like to bring everything together, what we all just shared, I should probably share as well. Right? So I'm dating at the moment, having like a really good time and finding it challenging to open my heart to people. I've like come out of a 5-year marriage like mid last year, and it was beautiful marriage, beautiful human, lots of amazing lessons learned. But it was also like relationships are great, breakups are hard. And right now I'm being challenged by opening my heart up to people again. And I find my standards are like fucking at center point tower on who I'm gonna open my heart up to again. And what I'm finding it hard is that I'll date people, they find out what I do, they're like, oh wow, he knows heaps about this stuff. You know, he must be really good at it.
So you're not good at it.
Pressure.
But then, you know, like I love connecting with fucking absolutely love connecting with people. And like, you know, if any one of us was to go out for dinner tonight, like, you know, I would give everything to that dinner. And I'm finding that people that I'm dating are like falling in love with me in one dinner. And I'm like, oh, not quite ready for that. Well, my perception is that they're falling in love with me.
You don't put out a survey form or anything.
No, there's no survey taken. But my perception is just like you're really great. I'm like mad about you as a human, but I'm not mad about having a relationship with you. And I feel cunty on taking women out for dates or men out for dates and being like, this is just like one day. That's pretty much all it's going to be.
I find it interesting. You're finding it pull back. I mean, I did notice that after my divorce too, but not now. But I think you obviously someone self-aware enough who probably knows how to connect to people very well. Doesn't the connection pull you in anyway? Like, do you still pull back even when, I feel like I'm only just learning to connect properly, right? So I find like I don't have a choice now. It's just like I have to be connected. I don't have a choice at the moment. It's like overly emotive. It's really annoying. But so do you still have that? But it pulls me in. I don't have a choice. Do you have that?
I get pulled in, but it's the morning afterwards where I'm just like, yeah, probably like pulled too much into that one. When I wasn't fully, I wasn't a full yes at the time.
But are you questioning what you want though? Because
I think I need to spend a little bit of time on what exactly it is that I want out of meeting people. Yeah. Get really clear on that, like an ideal partner list, and then that's like really clear, or ideal relationship list, which will obviously be bullshit once my dick in my heart gets into the game. However, like if you don't know what you're looking for, then it's just wishy-washy.
Do you think that's you have people for seasons, or do you think it's? Because I always wonder then what part someone plays in a relationship sense. Let's say if we're always growing and evolving and changing and life's going on, like all you guys are at different stages, right? Like some of you guys are in really long-term ones, some are newer, vice versa. I'm out entirely. But different versions of me previously would not align anymore with the same person. Like I took my ex-wife now because we co-parent my daughter, and like I'm like, fuck, I have zero alignment with you at all. And it was only 4 years back we were married, you know. And then my partner just then, only 2 months apart. I'm like, oh, you know, that probably doesn't align. That aligned with a point in my life, but I don't know if it still does. But I never asked myself that while I was in it. You just go with it.
I think it's my opinion on this is that it's two very different experiences through when you're changing as individuals in a relationship, you're doing it together.
Yeah, copy.
You know, you're in a committed relationship and you're moving through your stuff. Like Josh said, like he changes with the cycle of the moon or the cycle of which retreat he's gone on.
Literally.
Yeah. And
you're on a full moon or a new moon and you'll expect the difference.
And carries down for that.
Yeah.
So they're changing and they're growing together. When you do separate from somebody and you start to grow apart from each other, that's super common that you go back and be like, how the fuck did I do that for so long? Or like, I could never go back there or whatever. Relationships generally only end when, one of the parties is no longer willing to work on themselves or the relationship for the mutual benefit of the relationship. When one person's just like, fuck.
Can I chime in there just real quick? I think I mentioned this. Yeah, real quick. You know, mine real quick. But like, I'm only drawing back to the simple fact that I said this a couple of weeks ago when I shared here, is that I made the comment that I've shown Carrie the door multiple times. And that's because we've had hard conversations multiple times when I've felt like I'm doing the work or she's felt like she's doing the work, and we're going either come with or let's go separately. Like really having those hard conversations. So very easily could be same position as you guys, like that, because we've made the choice of no, your road is that road or your road is that road.
You mean it's like a call to accountability sort of thing? You're like,
Yeah, like I'm going this
out,
way.
so
This is where I am with my journey, and this is what I want out of life. You don't have to come, but this is where I'm going, and I would like you to come, but I don't want you to be held into that if that's not where you want to be. Because Carrie and I, you could not get any more polar opposites, like literally polar opposites. But somehow it's worked for this long, with that growth. But because of those conversations, and that's why, like, if you went back to Josh Menor only 8 years ago, I wouldn't even know that guy, and I would probably go, "Fuck, Carrie, why? This guy,
That's
like,
her 8 years ago.
this guy was a real dick."
So she was there. Yeah, at the
But
time.
that's the same sort of thing. And even 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, or 12 months ago, same thing.
Yeah, totally. It's it's just remarkable how if you're still in that container together,
Yeah,
that you can go on that roller coaster, and that roller coaster is the relationship. It's part of it. Whereas when you separate from somebody and you spend that time apart, it's not the same. You will always look back and be like, well, it's only in rom-coms where people break up and 4 years later go back and be like, fuck, we're made for each other.
Well, I disagree. I think people don't always grow though after a breakup, and therefore the polarity's probably not there as well. I don't know. I think a lot of people still stay exactly where they are and they spin the same wheel, and they probably look back and go, "Oh, that person's great." I've seen it with mates who have gone back a lot, and it's because they haven't grown or declined; they've just stayed the same. Old love stayed the same. They're like, "Oh, well, that does align because I haven't suspended or
I can see that.
Little side note, my uncle got married, then got divorced, got married and divorced 2 more times, then married his first wife for the 4th time and lived happily ever after.
Well, life can be a rom-com sometimes, right? Art imitating life.
or she could be like my mother, married, had another child, being the 4th child, then go not married this time, get engaged, go to another relationship, not married at that time, then go back with that guy over here, sit in that for another 4 to 5 year cycle, and that still really fucking fails as well. So, and nobody changed.
I like his more.
Yeah, that's the whole.
I know.
There's the polarities of the no change thing.
And that was a little happily ever after. Everyone in the family just can't.
Yeah, sometimes it
Great.
works.
I love that.
That's good.
But then he died about 6 months.
All right, so I want to bring together everything that we shared before. Is like, so there's communication, there's some connection, intimacy pieces, and obviously like priorities as well, which perfectly works into my map of how I work mostly with when it comes to sex and relationships. Is what I call the 3 C's: is communication, connection, and intimacy. Some of these guys have heard me talk about this before. The way I like to look at it is that if you're not having like really nutritious, high quality communication in the relationship, then you're not going to feel connected. And then if you try and be intimate without that communication and connection, then you feel more disconnected. Like I've definitely experienced the old, it's been 2 weeks, babe. How about we have a roll? And then you have a roll and you're laying there afterwards and you're like, fuck. That felt shit.
That's just a glorified wank.
Yeah, it is pretty much. So the opposite of that is that if you are having really good quality communication, like Josh has shared that they've had some And you're playing tennis together basically when you're having really good communication. You know, you're hitting the ball back and forth. Every now and then someone throws a fucking power shot at you, and you know, you might rebuff it or go out, and then you've got to start again. You start playing tennis back and forth, and that feels good because you're in it together and you're getting somewhere. You're winning. You win in this game called relationships because you're doing it and you're playing, and it's fun. That level of communication feels really connected because you start to get to know each other really well. Yeah, you start to be able to express how you're feeling when you trigger. You know, when you communicate like that, oh, I feel this. Well, the story that I'm telling myself right now, babe, is that you think, like, just because I didn't unpack the dishwasher once, that the rest of the week is worth nothing. Is that true for you? Or like, hey, the fact is, babe, I overheard you talking to one of your girlfriends, and what you said made me feel really fucking angry. And what I really need is for us to have each other's back a little bit more in social situations. You start to get to know each other. You start to feel really connected. Intimacy feels so much more available when you're communicating well and you feel connected. Yeah, if you're in conflict and you don't feel connected, then intimacy is like not even it's not even on the menu.
And would you say it can happen very quickly? Like you can go from fighting if you actually just, that's what I found, is like being a bit of a blue, and if you just can communicate it really effectively, and then you're like, there might be tears or whatever, and then it's like connection, and then it's sort of resolved, and then you're like, yeah, it can happen that quickly,
Yeah,
if you can go through the process, right?
If you get the tools to be able to navigate communication and conflict, it leads to connection, and it leads to dopamine in the brain. Like when you have a really big, challenging conversation with a partner and it leads to a nutritious outcome, you always feel better afterwards. Like, fuck, thank you so much, buddy, for talking to me about that. Like, I really needed that. Trying to fuck.
Is that like, yeah, pushing cortisol up about fire? This is cortisol then drop and dopamine kicks in.
Yeah.
Up. Yeah. Is that because that happens?
Yeah, totally. So that's my, like, there's so much more in it than what I can give everyone tonight, but that's my roadmap that you could use. If things,
Those three things that was
so 3 C's: communication, connection, and intimacy.
Intimacy is spelled with a soft C.
Yeah, or CCI, but yeah, it's not there.
Right.
You say the 3 C's?
Communication, connection, intimacy. Oh yeah, that's not 3 C's. No, yeah, 3 C's. There's a C in the sound of intimacy.
There's a C in the intimacy.
Yeah, you got it. You're right. So yeah, communication.
It's just part of your funny personality.
It is. It's been a big fucking week. So, but yeah, but like when if you're looking at your relationship and you're like, something's not quite right, maybe just break it down into those sections. You know, like, is it the intimacy? All right, well, if I think it's the intimacy, how's the communication, the connection? Where do I need to prioritize my time? And like Michael's talking with prioritizing time to make a really like positive change in your relationship could be sitting down and practicing some communication games, some communication tools. It could be doing some connection stuff. So like just sitting and doing some breath work together, meditating together, drawing together, reading together, eye gazing, connecting. And then the intimacy builds from all of that. If it's just the intimacy, if you've got the other things, then it might be having like a play date. Okay, like, hey, our intimacy is there. The other things are there. Let's spice things up a little bit. That might be when you might, you know, do something to spice things up a little bit. Get a bit deeper in your intimacy.
That was the tamest thing I think I've heard you say. Do something.
I've got a list of
You've got a long list there.
I've got a list of things here, as a matter of fact.
There's even that many things.
Some of these guys
Something I prepared earlier.
have got this. in the past. Some of them haven't.
Give it a me.
And what this might be would be a game that you could play with your partner, right? So say you have been communicating really well, things feel connected, or you would like to do this to be able to connect. You might sit with, say, some highlighters. So green, orange, and red. Green, yellow, and red, right?
Can I
Crazy
share?
thing, right?
Yeah.
Can I go?
that?
The other day, Carrie, for the first time, like ever, she used her nails on my back in a way that just fucking sent me through the roof.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for sex or anything. She just literally used her nails in a way. And I was like, whatever you did right then, I would love for you to do like every single time you're in the bed, or every single time you cover me or whatever. Like that was crazy.
Yeah.
I said that because scratching is like,
Yeah.
Quick question for the group. How weird / confronting is it even just seeing some of these words and reading them on this sheet? So, like, how confronting is that to then go with your partner and go, hey, what do you think about this?
Yeah, you feel like you're a teenager again. What do you think about this butt plug?
Yeah. So the trick is with it, right? Is this is again using communication and conflict skills, right? So, say.
Can Jace maybe talk to his experience with just with this sheet? Because I think you did it, didn't you?
Yeah. So
And you found it very informative.
this here was one of the tools that was like very pivotal in our relationship.
Did you go from the top?
Yeah. So we had 2 bits of paper, and Tick and myself sat down. We didn't have kids because you need time. Got to make space for it. We didn't see each other's, and we did as Luke and Cinder had suggested, and went through everything. And what we did was we ticked, put a cross next to things like no, and then we put question mark next to things. And we came together, and we had like this what the fuck moment. Like we don't know each other in this space. We have no idea. We just know each other on the surface level, and it was like I don't know, 70%, I would say. We just weren't aligning with things that she wanted to do, and I was crossed. She was ticked, and I was like, "What? You want to do that? You want to do that? This? You're open to this?" And we've been together this stage about like 10 years. What is this? Yeah, absolutely unbelievable to do this.
So it's an eye opener for you.
Yeah, and so like I can't recommend enough for you guys to sit down,
Even as a single person.
Yeah, even as a single.
Well, funny then, actually, because I literally bumped into my ex on the weekend and we're talking, and actually this one of these things came up, right? And she's like, "Why don't you tell me? We're together for 3 years. I'll be cool with that." I was like, "Yeah, fuck." And she was like, "Oh, no, that's fine. I'd be cool with that." Like, she's like, "If you told me 3 years ago, we would have had a really good time for 3 years." And I'm like, so I encourage you all to fucking take the list back, because if I know, right? That's
Did you also, Jace, did you untick things?
Once you knew that.
Get the eraser out there.
Yeah.
Sorry, no. Did you uncross things? Sorry, did you uncross things?
Yeah, and this is where, okay, so this is where I was at as well. I'm glad you brought that up, because there were things that I was assuming that if she knew that I was a tick on it, she'd be like, "Oh, who are you? That's gross." So I'd cross it, and I was being dishonest with myself.
That's the thing, eh?
It's all about this communication, honesty, and just do it.
And Jace,
This is the beauty. This is the beauty of these sheets.
Yeah.
and Jace, I think from memory, can probably relate to Glenn a lot.
Yeah, mate.
Because we've had that conversation, right?
You're not the first to sit around this table. Okay.
And
That's why I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
and I guess, like I said, this was one of the tools.
Yeah.
But I think when Luke talks about, like, you know, I'm put on the thing like bring sexy back. I just came up with that. I mean, it wasn't Justin Timberlake, but
That's been spoken for.
and I think, like, would you agree? And correct me if I'm incorrectly coaching here. Allows you to see your partner in a different light, and then it becomes more than just what you see. It becomes a different connection point.
And he unveils the key to this talk is that we can have all of these talks about communication, connection, and non-sexual intimacy, and where we're all at and what our experience is right now. And you need to be able to dream a little bit bigger as well.
Dream bigger.
You need to be able to get out of your problem and have something to fucking look forward to. Yeah. And something that I find in all of our little boys' minds is that we just think that we're dirty cunts. That's the things that we think. And because of the freaky things that we might want to do, or like, you know, the porn that we might watch. I know. I fucking know. So it's a really funny story. When Cinder and I first started dating, I will write a book one day about Cinder and I's relationship. But in the space of 5 years, we fucking turned the world of sex inside out, upside down, back to front. But it all started because we started having like really big, challenging conversations about sex early on. I remember like we're about 2 weeks into it, and she said to me, you know, what are your fantasies and desires? And I was like, oh, you know, I don't know, what do you mean? And she's like, you know, like, what do you want to do? Like, you know, we're having lots of fun. Like, what do you want to do together? And I was like, you know, just this, what we're doing is fucking sick. Like, Nary and Turbo Doggy, it's great. And she's like, really? And I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is what I dream about. And she's like, yeah, sick. Is that your computer over there? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, let's just look up your porn history. Come on, let's not, you know, beat around the bush here. We're here to do some fun shit. And I was like, tell me yours first. And she like just unloaded. It's like it was the version of this, doing this, but talking it out. And I was like, holy fuck. All right, scrap what I said. I was like, you've got no idea what goes through this fucking filthy mind. Here we go. I was like, I want to do this, I want to do this, and I want to see that, I want to see them do that, and then them do that, and then this, and then maybe that. And it's like, you know, so I guess like, oh, okay, yeah. And we're like sick. And some of the stuff that she said really rocked me. Like some kink, some BDSM stuff, like wanting to be slapped, like, you know, like having some fantasies that seemed like really rough to me, which had a big effect on my like masculine perception of violence and how that could be sexy. And I had to go away and do a heap of work on that for myself. And now I teach people about kink and BDSM and how to tie their partners up correctly. But these sorts of conversations, if we want to be having really, really good sex, like you put in your post, we need to be having more conversations, far more conversations about sex and intimacy outside of the bedroom than we would ever have inside of the bedroom. Because there's so much fucking pressure put on intimacy. When all of the stars line up and the kids are in bed and whatever happens, it's like, fuck, we've got to talk about it all now. Or we just revert back to those same 3 moves that we've been doing for ages, which becomes boring, and we get resentful of it, and all of a sudden the desire goes away. You know, like you start talking about this sort of stuff, this high quality level of intimacy. It doesn't mean that you have to do it. Just because they've ticked all this stuff doesn't mean that every single night you're going to be like putting a ball gag in and you know, getting your armpit hairs plucked out one by one. Just
Round in the bar.
Would you go there?
I coached a guy who is like a devout Christian, and they were both. It turns out they were both really like you know, in a great way twisted. I use that word with like, you know, much love feels real good for me. But neither of them knew it, right? And next thing you know, like she's pissing on him in the bathtub, and then like they had a conversation that like 2 weeks after they'd done this, and she's like, we're not just going to be doing twisted shit like every time, are we, babe? And like what they realized was no, but they wanted to be intimate more when they knew each other more deeply around their intimacy and their desires and their fantasies. Like once you know somebody's twisted mind, it could just take like simply whispering in their ear, I'm thinking about how much you would enjoy right now, me.
Yeah, it's fucking exciting. Like it's
And then all of a sudden,
High quality problem.
all of a sudden the quivers go down the spine and they're like, really? When were we thinking that? No, I've been thinking it all day, babe. And then you walk
super
away.
exciting when you like you know those lines as well.
Yeah.
You know, when you push the boundaries, push the boundaries.
And like exploring things that are edges, it means that you're doing a challenge by choice together.
It's a good exercise because it takes puts all cards on the table, but without you having to do it both at once. Because like what you say before, it's like, oh, you first, right? That's predator, everyone default, right? No, you be vulnerable first, and then I'll sort of tell you if I'm sick or not. And then, you know, but this is just like, no, both go away and both be sick. Then come back, cross-reference your sickness, and then go, oh, well, how does this talk? Or does it not talk? And why doesn't that? Yeah, it's good. It's a good exercise, eh? Because it sort of puts all cards on the table without you having to do it in front of each other, where the judgment might be perceived to be.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
And it's fun in the fact that once you do get into a version of your relationship where there is time constraints or priorities around, and the moon does align for, say, you used to have 2 hours free on a Saturday afternoon. Like, hey, babe, do you want to like organize a bit of a play party where we might try like 1 or 2 of those things off the list? You're like, yeah, sick, sounds good.
I'm
And
trying
like,
to find candles without petroleum and so you know.
tallow,
Hey,
tallow
really?
candles.
Thank you.
But if it's going to be like for sex play, you really need to get like sex candles from a sex shop because they're low temperature and they don't burn. Also, if you do end up using a normal candle, you just have to create lots and lots of distance so the wax has got time to cool down before it hits the body.
Like I said, there's probably not much that Luke hasn't done or experienced that.
That's good. That's good. I can't fucking wait to hear candles. It's my number one priority at the moment.
Sensation.
For you, or
Yeah, fuck yeah.
In life, he's big.
No, it is. Like, seriously, it is.
Is that like a sensation in this wax thing? Like just
Yeah. See, it's the longest my hairs have ever been like this too, because I actually like fucking somebody goes for a massage, me getting the hairs ripped out of my legs is like super therapeutic for me. Like I like
They consent to that.
That might be even better.
That was super funny, even just like because when we spoke about the podcast, like obviously you spoke about consent and I even put in the post like, you know, we're all just fumbling around the dark, and I think you said in the podcast that you can't just spring stuff on people.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you can't, you need to like communicate with them, and I think you said, you know, like all of a sudden you're doing normal missionary or something like that, and all of a sudden you got a finger up the bum or something like that. Like that's gonna be like super triggering.
Right, absolutely. So like that, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Michael. It's creating safety in your relationship after it being like maybe they're not feeling trust or safety, whether it be through going through some mental health issues and your partner having to take care of you during that time. There can be a level of distrust there. After being in like a conflict cycle for a long time, there can be a level of non-safety there. And the only way to come back from that is to create trust and safety through consent and really good boundaries. So getting really good at asking, would you like it if I? Would you like it if I? Would you like it if I? You know, and that's the difference between like these things that are on the list. Some of these things might be what they call opt-outs. So tickling or a feather stroke, you know. You can feather stroke me anytime you want. That's an opt-out. I would have to specifically tell you, I'm having a really shit day, babe. Give me some space. Okay. Whereas an opt-in would be like finger in the bum. I do like a finger in the bum, but you can't just walk past me in the kitchen
Yeah.
and stick it in.
Gotta slip it in the
So
kitchen.
that's a consent thing. Like, hey, would you like it if I put my finger in your bum on this in this session? So absolutely, babe. I've been waiting all day for you to ask. But like, you get really good at asking for consent with things, and it makes this, which can feel dangerous or risque, feel safe. So get really, really good at asking for consent. Would you like it if I? It becomes really sexy when you get really good at being consent king.
How does this land for everyone? Like literally just like reading that list. How's it land for you?
How's that for you guys?
Getting comfy now. It was confronting when they first read it. Also, I think group environment. You probably used to reading that style, or probably not. That was confronting at first. There's yeah, turns out I'm quite vanilla. I'm not imaginative, I should say.
I'm not shaming vanilla sex here, but it's just good to know.
Yeah, it is. It's expansive, which was the point of coming tonight was because these guys spoke about it the other night, just briefly touched on sex as a topic in general, and it was like that. I'm like, oh, that's like even just talking about it, I'm getting uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, well, that's a pretty like very uncomfortable area. So if I were to talk about that more in front of a larger group, that would be very uncomfortable. So I'd probably grow even more. So it's like, yeah, that was very uncomfortable reading this. But then I'm like, okay. But then you're actually talking through, oh, what do you do with it? Okay, well, you both cross, you both go away, you both look at it. Okay. Then you slowly go through and you break it down to negotiables, right? And go, well, who's comfortable with what and why? Or why aren't you comfortable with something, I guess? And then it normalizes it, I guess.
Yeah.
So now I'm less uncomfortable with that idea because I guess you put some
context.
Yeah, and steps, right? You got some structure around it. You're not just here's a list of wacky shit.
Yeah, that's what Luke does beautifully. Like I said to you guys before, Luke does it beautifully well. It makes anything weird or way out of your comfort zone just be like any other Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. Well,
Thursday night.
that's what I like. These things that are taboo need to become less taboo so that there's less people fucking struggling with it. If there's 5 of like us group in here that have all said similar things about relationships, everyone's comfortable. So we need to be able to get better at bringing shit out of the taboo shadow. One thing around the taboo is, and around edges with consent, is consent's always fluid in life. Like you can say yes to something one day and then it can change in 5 minutes time. So that's really important to remember in relationships in general, because like Josh is saying, changes with the wind.
Yeah.
And what you might be completely down for today. And just because you've said yes to something and you try it and it goes wrong or it's not great, doesn't mean anything about you or the other person or your relationship. It just means that you tried something and you've got feedback for the future. The same goes for having challenging conversations, for trying a new cuisine, for trying a new sex position. Like trying something, you're never going to get punished for trying something when there's consent involved.
Probably laugh about it.
Yeah.
How about you two guys?
Yeah, well, this is pretty new. Like I've never sat around the group guys talking about this.
You went real deep in, man. Hey, I feel like we got a few hours. We just jumped into some ice, hey. But like, we got stitched up.
I was literally driving out of the driveway this afternoon. I was like, fuck it. Hold on, boys. Put the handbrake on, ran in and grabbed these.
Glad you did all that idea.
Yeah.
Ask question.
That's a good idea. So, yeah.
What sort of convos does that start with? Like how long? Whoa. So was that like a forward? Were you guys both like whoa, and then it took a while for you guys to come back together and chat about it, or was it like a pretty smooth process? You started talking, and you just got curious. Like how did you and your?
It was awesome because like you start to like push the boundaries and you're like, all right, how far? Like you just lift, everything just lifts up. And you've probably heard it 4 or 5 times now, the problems, high level problems that you have. So that's what it does. This is what this for myself and our relationship was healing, and like, it was healing. And it's probably hard for me to articulate that process of the healing process that comes out of it. I'll butcher it, but yeah, it was for us. That's what it was.
Because you guys could do more trust. You probably trust each other more and more as you do, as the ceiling lifts on that, you probably have to do more and more things that require more and more trust.
Communication.
Communicate more too.
Yeah, more consent, a lot more trust as well in that space. You're a lot more, but you have to be more vulnerable. You're having a conversation with your wife about a finger in the butt, for example. Oh, that's something I've never done. Do you want to try that? Or what are we going to use and everything? Oh shit, as a male, we have to be vulnerable. What does that mean about me? Like, oh shit,
What stigmas there?
What about my sexuality? If I have something in my butt, all right, well, where's that come from? Like, is that because like all my life I've grown up and someone's like, well, if you have something up your butt, that means you're essentially a homosexual. It's like, no. But that's what you run around with this crap in your head.
And then the conversations that you start having with your partner.
Yeah, that's it. And then out of everything, like my sexuality has been solidified as well. That's what I've found for myself.
It's pretty freeing when you get to that stage. Hey, would you say that? Oh, there's Tomcat over there.
Yeah, I spoke about last week. I love that herb.
Awesome. Would you say though, how did you approach hey, let's catch up with Luke?
How do we approach it?
Yeah. So how did you approach that?
Because
I'm interested in that part.
we had to sit down. Then it was like, because we had the initial session here in the room.
Not even that though. So who came up with, hey, we're going to meet with Luke and Sindra?
Tanika once again. It's always Tanika.
Yeah, cool.
So we put on a workshop here.
Yes.
And then
Jason
came to that.
Yeah.
So then
That's the conversation I'm interested in. Just to get to here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a level of communication, commitment, and acceptance in that together. So we can take that first step to go. We're going to talk to intimacy coaches.
Yeah.
And be super vulnerable.
Yeah.
And make that like that. I think
it was the same sit down.
Would you say that was actually the biggest step?
Yeah. This, because then we realised once we did this and how out of alignment we were. If we're out of alignment with this, we're also out of alignment with our connection, our communication, and obviously our intimacy, because the whole reason we came was my way of thinking at that time was she's not putting out, not getting enough sex, something fucked. Luke and Sindra might be able to help me.
Yeah.
That was it. It was that surface level. It was that shallow, I should say. And then it was, once we sat down and did this, it was like, all right, now we need Luke and Sindra to assist us and guide us through this.
It'd be super uncomfortable though. I almost feel like props to you, lads, who have already, because that would be super fucking hard, I think. I think of me in a relationship just previously, like even just having the conversation, hey, do you want to go with we'll call a relationship coach, sex coach, whatever you want to call your job? That'd be confronting as fuck. Like if I went, I'm trying to visualize myself talking to my ex-wife or whatever, going, hey, do you want to go see a sex coach? Like that one implies that you're currently shit at sex, or you want to get better at sex, or you're not having enough. So like it's like counselling, right? Like people go, I only go to counselling when something's broken. It's not proactive counselling, right? So they go, oh well, counselling is about a failed relationship. You're failing as a man, you're failing, and you're not communicating. It's always like the negative stuff in there. Like, yeah, it'd be ballsy to go to you, for example. Like that would be.
That's my challenge in life, is to show people that, you go and do the work when the sun's shining sometimes. You don't wait until rock bottom.
That's like, it's a big part of like what we want this place to be about. It's like this, it's like proactive mental health. It's like proactive relationship work. And like Luke says it really well. Like if all you do is missionary, or if you feel like you're not the best that you can be in the bedroom, and you've done that for the last 10 or 15, 20 years, well, is it do you go, oh, I can make the next 20 better, or do you keep doing the same shit that you've been doing and just go, what do you say? Oh, maybe I'll go turbo on that now and hope it improves. That's not how it works. And
You just expect a different result,
you do the same old thing, expect it. Just like
One day my missus might just decide that she absolutely loves it when I do the same thing that I've been doing.
The way it lands with me, nothing on there really frightens me or concerns me, but I feel like when I met my wife, none of that would have concerned or frightened me. That was it. She's changed.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say that.
she's also going through a process, and that's what so I had to go through my own process, but Sam went through her own process as well, with finding her powerful feminine and finding her feminine. And that's what the challenge I think that Luke and Cinder would have had is women feeling empowered in their feminine, because there's nothing sexier.
Yeah.
And when you talk about your wife, there's nothing sexier than a woman on full feminine power. And I said that's our job to elevate that, but they've also they have to be open to doing some work around that. But I was really fortunate that Sam just dived into her own stuff, and she came to me one day and was like, what do you think? She was like, she's read romance novels from fucking age. I'm like, what are you reading that shit for? Read something educational. And I didn't necessarily think she was like not cheating on me with it, but like she was getting some fulfillment from that because of her desires, I guess. And I didn't appreciate that. Or I probably didn't want to like think about it maybe, that I was underperforming. And I think, like you said, it takes a big ego. It takes a lot of courage to go, hey, maybe I'm not so good with this. So when we say lead, like it's like we have to almost lead and go, it's not this is broken. It's I want to be better for you. It's not if it comes from a selfish place, I don't think you're going to have a winning outcome. But if it comes from a selfless place, then I think you're going to have a better chance. And if you can get Luke on a free discovery call or whatever, or just if you can involve Luke in the conversation in some way, shape, or form, like I said, he'll just normalize. He does an amazing job of normalizing things and making it seem absolutely totally normal, because he just tells those funny stories, and it's like, oh shit, well, it's just everyone. And if you look at it, it is everyone. If anyone out there thinks their intimacy is nailing it, I question their awareness of their relationship and their intimacy.
It's a good attitude and the improvement piece to it also, because you're right, don't wait till it's broken, just do it, be proactive of being better. Because I assumed, now I think back, I didn't do it also because she was raped when she was younger, and like and then molested as a kid too, so there's heaps of stuff tied up around it. So I assumed, therefore, because of that level of trauma and sex, that like really, that she wouldn't do, everything was, that was a no-go zone talking wise, because I assumed I'd touch on something. And now I look back, like, I wish I could have talked. I'd talk now, I would have done it. But I assumed for her that that wasn't an area she'd explore, then that shut her off too. And that's as far as we had to go. It wasn't the other stuff and minimal connection and minimal talking.
That's why you need a professional in the room like Luke to help navigate that, because like it's like Jason Tick were able to do what they did, and Josh and Carrie can, and they've also had their own stuff. But like I said, if it is going to bring conflict, or you think it's going to bring conflict, it's probably more your stuff than their stuff. But if you don't have the vocabulary to articulate it, having someone like Josh there as a go-between is invaluable to.
Big on as well though with that is like the life cycle of everything too, because like where you guys are is completely different to where I am. 6 and 8 year old, and I'm 42. How old are you? 44. How old are you?
39.
Yeah. So like it just depends on like where everybody's at in there. Because there's the whole female archetypes that come into it as well, male archetypes, where you are on your spiritual or non-spiritual journey, all of that sort of stuff. And if you don't have that awareness, it's really difficult to be able to bring yourself to a level where you can start bringing somebody else on.
We have good conversations surrounding like seasons of your life. And going, like we are in the trenches with kids. Like there's no denying that. But and we go, early 50s, we'll be able to, there might be time for us again or whatever, but it's just a time poor, like, but those 3 C's, I just need to work on them every day.
Absolutely. I think we use it as an excuse as well.
Yeah. If you want
the whole time poor thing.
if you want to write something down on your paper, you don't need to, you already know this stuff. But on the back of your paper, write down the 5 love languages quiz. And just write down on the back the 5 love languages quiz. So Google that and do it with your partner or by yourself. It'll be epic on your communication and connection. Just Google the 5 love languages quiz. You get on there, you do the quiz. It'll take you literally 5 minutes.
Words of affirmation, acts of service.
Yep, all that. Also look up sexual blueprint quiz.
And then expand by that email.
Yeah, well, you just unsubscribe once you get it. But and the next one is the attachment style quiz. Write down, and next to that, write down Jessica Fern. So if you Google attachment style quiz, Jessica Fern
Attachment style.
quiz, Jessica Fern.
Fern, is it?
Yeah, when she was hella anxious.
And
to-
can I add one thing to the list? Because I think for me, this also was a bit of a catalyst to normalise some of this. Was that, is it Sex, Love and Goop or something like that?
On Netflix, really good.
Netflix.
Oh yeah, that's cool, actually.
It's Gwyneth Paltrow.
Sex, love and.
Sex, Love and Goop. GOOP.
Yeah.
And then after that, how to build a sex room.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how to build a sex room. Yeah.
I've seen it.
I just wasn't real keen on that. Huh?
Well,
Maybe it's not whole real estate.
well,
Yeah.
yeah. See,
I like it. I was just like,
when you see Sex, Love and Goop, you get a maybe better vision of what my day looks like.
Yeah. I think for me that doco was just, and Sam skipped a lot of stuff. Like we probably only watched maybe a third of it.
Yeah.
So she watched it all, and then she was like, "Oh, I found those people really annoying.
Yeah.
Let's just watch this one." And it was just like I said, the stuff that Luke does and the stuff that has been involved in, it's just like it seems so weird when you're sort of like when you don't know, like. And if you, and if you watch it, it's like a lot of it's a visual, you know, and it just helps us visualize. And if you sit down with your partner, if you watch that and then maybe do the quiz, I'd imagine you'd be light years ahead of where you are today.
The reason that I've gotten you all of this to write down the quizzes is because it gives you a bit of a really brief synopsis of, say, the 5 languages is how you communicate to connect with people. And the sexual blueprint is all about like what actually turns you on. So the first bit is like, yes, you can have a plan that when you're in your 50s, you'll have some time again, but you need to maintain your connection during that time. So 5 love languages will help you with that. The sexual blueprint part is like, if we are having a bit of a libido mismatch or whatever, like there's not much happening, if you actually know what turns each other on, like at your core, when there is time for it, you don't fuck around with, you know, the things that don't actually land with each other. Like if, you know, there's 15 minutes and Josh wants his hair pulled out and that's going to give him like the time of the week, then that's what we're doing because that's kinky shit. But like, if I thought that he was into, you know, sensual stuff, then I might, you know, play him a song on the guitar and he's like, pull my hair, dickhead. But like it gives you an awareness of what turns you on. Super important. And the attachment styles is all about pretty much how you turn up in conflict.
I wish I'd done that earlier. If there's nothing else, I wish I'd done that sooner. It's really funny because we had a good conversation after separating. Me and my ex met up and she researched attachment. I did, and she went, we could have solved 90% of our shit if we just known she was she was anxious. I was avoiding, and it informed everything. Like it was like, I wish I could have.
Yeah.
I wish I.
And all that does is give you the awareness to be able to make conscious changes. Once you know how you're turning up and how your partner's turning up, you can be like, fuck, I'm doing that thing. Now I'm going to navigate this way a little bit differently. And it just means that you're not spinning your wheels, waiting for better days. Yeah, like you like you said, you're in the trenches, but that doesn't mean that you can't do some stuff whilst you're in the trenches to try and make it better.
Yeah, we've all been in trenches.
Yeah, and it is scary talking about this stuff, but I try and make it not scary. You know, I try and make it, you know, push you towards something that's challenging in a loving way, so that you can go and your mates together.
Get set up now in the dark room. Who's going first?
Whoever wants to, we can all do it together if we want.
What about
Quick circle, Joe.
I like the good Harry as well. What we do.
You won't believe when I was doing my somatic sexological bodywork training, there was actually a thing called the 3 circles where everybody in the training that had 3 circles, chairs all face this way, with the sarong hung over it, and there's a circle of people sitting here, there's a circle of people dancing naked in the middle, and there's a circle of people around the outside touching the people on the chairs, and you could self-pleasure whilst watching the people dance in the middle. And it was just like this room of just like throbbing eroticness.
Yeah.
And so people are just sitting there like orgasming, coming, people are dancing and like lapping all of that energy up, and people are behind you touching you. It's like, we called it the circle jerk, and you did it like every 2 days. It was great.
And where do we go to? How do we get on that course?
One of the other practices is that you'd get laid down on a table, and there would be 3 practitioners around you, and with consent, you would tell them what level of touch you were open to receiving, and then they would touch you, and you could come or you could not come, but you basically just got treated to 3 people giving you an elaborate wank, and that was part of the training as well.
I don't think it's a tape course.
You can't, it's not covered by Hex or anything like that.
Yeah, this thing's getting free.
It's not cheap. It's not a $70 rub and tug down the thigh massage training. That's awesome. I recommend every fucking person does that training. It was incredible. But
Are you gonna go?
I gotta go.
Yeah, so if you got like 10 or 15 minutes, a couple of other questions, you can go if you want.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to, like, our partners and women, and correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, but they're really into this stuff, and they really want to experience like a relationship like this as well. So it's not us like pushing it or having some sort of agenda or whatever. And they talk about this stuff frequently with their girlfriends all the time. And I think that was one of the funniest things for me was after we first started doing some stuff around this, Sam's off like talking to her girlfriends, and I'm like, whoa, hey, like, how are they gonna like look at me if they know that this is like
What you're doing?
what I'm? I was like, oh, well, that's, you know, are they gonna be attracted to me, or are they gonna be like, oh? And they said, and Mike's like, he's okay with this, and she asked me that in the car one day, and I said, well, why wouldn't I be? It's like every boy's fantasy to play around with this stuff. And I was like, why wouldn't you be open to it? And so there's like they were surprised that that we were doing that I was open to trying stuff. So for me, it goes also went to show like that we're really closed off to it, and it's sort of like mostly us. It's like our ego. And they're sort of they're more open than us, and if we can bring the energy and lead, then in a really loving way, and a non-egotistical way, and a non-selfish way, I think they would love to come along the journey. But yeah, like I said, it's nice to have someone like Luke in your corner. And like I remember when we did that workshop, Luke sort of talked about like we'll go and get a dietitian for our nutrition, we'll go and get a car service, we'll go and pay all this money for all these other things, yet arguably the one most important thing in our life, our relationship, we spend $0 on, and we fumble around in the dark, and we're expected to be an expert in relationships when it probably hasn't been right, may or may not have been role modeled well for you. It's like, well, of course you're not fucking awesome at relationships because you don't fucking know anything. Like you literally, and it's like, well, and then of course you're not good in intimacy because you've done the same thing or played around the same things you've done since you were 18. That you've got your go-tos that you think work. So that was just super eye-opening for me. It was just like, it's okay to, like I've said it a couple of times today, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be shit at this stuff. It's not okay to continue being shit or not wanting to like improve and get better. So see you guys. Yeah. So like investing, like I think Jace has done it, like invested, and we've all invested different things at different times, and Yeah. Thanks heaps, Luke, for
Thank you for having me.
That was great.
Letting me spray a little bit.
So,
Enjoyed it.
yeah, I think like I said, like we were talking to Will last week, and it was funny. So I went and did there was a tantric massage thing that Luke helped facilitate a couple of weeks ago, and in my wildest dreams or nightmares, I never thought I'd be in a room full of naked people getting massaged.
Yeah, that blew my mind still for like days after.
Never in my wildest dreams or nightmares, right? That's like
That's a massive investment, right? Eh?
that's scary. And I walked in, and Luke set it up, and he was like, "Yeah, you'll be in a room." Blah, blah, blah. Then we get in there, and it's like big room set out with beds on the ground, and there's like all like mats laid out, and it's like, guess this individual room thinks not happening.
I thought there was going to be individual rooms, but
So, but it was
challenging part of the exercise.
but it was fine, and it was like it's like fucking, it was just a standard Thursday night.
by the end of it, everyone was sitting around like just with the sarong over their wang and just chatting about like how epic that experience was, and like all this the shift from this is edgy, doing it in a room with some other people, compared to like an hour later, everyone being like, "Fuck, that was epic."
And for me, the shift from what you guys are experiencing to that, like 6 months, Jace, like
6, 8 months, yeah.
like
Did you do it?
not even that far. Like it's not.
Are we doing it together?
Do it, yeah.
Yeah,
It was challenging enough to like pull me here, because when you guys told me the other night about it, I was so like, I walked away, I was just like, and I was like, how the what? Like, but and it was enough to make me come tonight, despite it being uncomfortable. I was like, you know what, fuck that. That was challenging enough to make me think, all right, I'm gonna look at that, because that's the most challenging concept.
Yeah.
Room full of with others as well. Fuck, like what?
Well, what makes me really proud is that you did turn up.
Yeah.
And it always makes me super proud when I am in a room full of men who are willing to talk about relationships, because a lot of us grown up not talking about hard things, and taking it to some really cool, juicy spots. That makes me really, really proud of us for doing this. I was really proud of that group of mates that I invited along to the mystery night, and I'm really proud of us tonight for having this convo as well.
Yeah.
It turns me on.
Thanks,
and
mate.
this is why I do what I do, because nobody's got, it's a short experience, and nobody's got time to be eating shit in their relationship and having shit sex. Obviously there's seasons to these things, but you can work on it. Even if it's just to jump on those links, even if it's to have a call with me, or to talk to one of your mates, or take this away to your job tomorrow and have a conversation with somebody that you trust there. Like,
I love. Here you go. Thanks, bro.
Thank you so much.
Like, don't make it me, Jace. Like, I just love, like, I'm quietly confident you guys will tell someone else about this experience, and I love that that'll open up another conversation and another connection for you guys. Like, have you ever had these conversations with a mate? Yeah. You?
Oh, now I have. After last week, I spoke to like 3 people. I was like, "Hey, wait to hear about this."
And so, and what was that experience?
Well, one was male. It was a male mate and a female mate. And interestingly, the female mate was like, "Oh yeah, like years out here, already had a chat, already done that, been there, done that, already gone in that rabbit hole, explored that, unpacking that, cool." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And again, like from the female part, you'd think there's that risk of like, "Oh, is she gonna think I'm weird?" But yeah, then she was like, "Oh no, of course. Oh, how good. You're exploring that. Oh, you're gonna have a great time." Like running it. And then the guy though, it was interesting. He was married. He was like, if I was, it was crazy. Yeah. But both sides, but it was harder with the guy than it was the girl getting enough. And she was so open about it. She'd already gone out and like worked with the sex therapist herself, like great, like really gone down that. I was like, no fucking way. What do you mean? And she really like unpacked it. I was like, yeah. So like I said, women are already like open to it.
Women are decades, maybe centuries ahead of us. Like they've been talking about this stuff forever, and we've just been totally closed off to it because of our upbringing and stuff like that. And but yeah, like it's but I love when it's like funny because you sort of tell a funny story about it. Like when I joke about it, I'm like, I put in the post like, oh yeah, you can, you can come and you take your pants off once, and then it's a funny story when you go home and you don't have to come again. But it's like, this is a heaps funny story, like that you're here first time, and we're just like going straight.
Yeah.
So it's so good. But it like takes a big set of balls, bro. So
And it's okay to get in your car after and go, fuck.
Mine is lovely.
what a bunch of weirdos.
You got the whole thing.
Fucking table of like, I don't even know what. Hey,
Yeah.
my mind's blank.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's good though. But know that you're in a safe environment. That's the main thing. When you walk through that door, you're in a safe environment. So anything you ever share here is received with an open heart and an open mind. And this is the place. And if there's literally anything to share, this is the place to do it. Because there's no judgment. And I can assure you, with the circle of people that we've got at the table, probably couldn't say much that we fucking wouldn't go. At least one of us had been there.
Yeah.
Definitely
100%.
been there.
100%.
All tried that, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How's it then with you?
Yeah, it's it's sort of come back to it's a me thing. Do you know what I mean? Like the 3 C's, and I when I talk about being time poor, I just need to I prioritize other things in my life. I just need to prioritize that. And as I said, none of this. When I met her, fuck, did some gnarly. We went to a bathhouse in Rome. Like it was on like Donkey Kong. There was people reading everywhere. And we were my mind was blown then, and there wasn't much on there that we haven't dipped our toes in. But she's grown away from that into a mum, into a wife, and I'm still like, I think even. Well, I think 80-year-olds look at 20-year-olds because that's what we can procreate their whole life. That's just what we're in their fertile years, and that's what we look at. But I'm still there, and she's so far from there. And
I guess that's that would be my challenge for you is like, is that your assumption?
I
or
think
is
so.
is that the reality?
And I said it, and I was pretty raw about it, and I would prefer I find myself these days having a wank on the lounge instead of making the effort.
Yeah, because it's effort, right? It's hard.
And I can look at her. She's exhausted. She's tired, and I go, I'm going to burden her by wanting to crawl over her. She's exhausted. So it's the other ways of making some time, and
they need the lead in.
Yeah,
that's clear and obvious most of the time is that they need the lead in, and to build that trust and safety.
Yeah,
I think is huge, and
it can be as simple as taking the weight off her shoulder, say.
If
you're like, fuck, she's just exhausted by the end of the day, it's like, okay, so, and this is only surmising here, but like, how can I man up so that she's not exhausted and she does actually feel like she wants intimacy or that type of like, you hit the nail on the head when it's like, whenever I say you lead first, it's literally what can I do on myself that can put me into a position that can help those people around me elevate to where we all want to be. Like how can we shift that?
I've fallen into that trap. It's not a trap, but it's expectation up within myself. Like I'll put the bins out, I'll cook dinner, I'll mow the lawn, I'll put the washing out, I'll do everything, and then it may not happen that particular time. And so that you do that a couple of times, it's got to go, fuck, why do I bother?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Such a man thing to do. Isn't it? Seriously, like it is. And I'll tell you why I say that, because I'm lying on the lounge twice this week, and Carrie says to me like the first time, like she calls me Bob, right? Bob. And I got my earphones in and I'm watching Netflix because I'm just like zoning out at a massive day, all of that bullshit that we have, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, like, because like we're polar opposites from this point of view, right? So the way that my brain works, I'll pick it up. Could take 3 days, but I'll pick it up, and I know I'll pick it up. I know in my mind at some stage the time for me to do that will happen. I know it'll happen, but it happens like when it happens. Sometimes straight away, sometimes not. But because she's mum, and that's how she does things. And if you met her mother, who literally I can just pick stuff up, puts it away, whether it needs to be or not, whether you finished cup or not. So that's her conditioning, right? My mother was the same as well, but she's like, if you like walk over something, can you just put it away? And I'm like, and my answer was, can we have this discussion at a different time? Like that was my, and she goes, that's really triggering to me. And I'm like, yeah, but like, it's really triggering for me, you saying that right now when I'm zoning out, because you know how I work. And again, like last time, so then I'm dismissive, right? So I do the same, literally the same thing. So kids are in bed, you know, I get up and do my part, put the kids in bed, and I'm like, yeah, I've done my part.
Yeah.
But then I'm like on a lounge again because I'm like just fucking fried. Like, okay, cool, having my tea, just like sleep tea, get ready. Walks out once again. Bob, I'm like, yeah. How many times did you walk across this? And it's the yoga mat that Paige had been doing, you know, backflips and stuff on. And I looked at her and I went, I don't remember walking over it once, actually.
To which she replies with a backhand.
And she just goes like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, I am. Right now, I'm serious. I'm like, I get it. I know where you're coming from. And she goes, I've tested it before. Like I left the thing in the hall. And that's, see, I push back when that happens. For me, I push back. I go, I know where this conversation's going, and this is not the time for it. And she goes, that's really like dismissive. And I'm like, right now, I am going to be dismissive because it's not the conversation that I'm ready to have. And this feels like you're ready for conflict, and I'm not ready for conflict. Like, but I can be dismissive like that too. And it's really like, I get how she can get agitated, but she also knows that meet me at the right level and I'll talk about it all day.
Yeah.
But I also know her tricks. Like, I've just had the kids are in there.
That was a big one though, man.
And I'm
Like,
like,
it sounds
okay, cool,
just to-
interesting. I know where this is going. I know that I'm not perfect with that, but also you know that I've got like a style that is probably chemical that I'm dealing with here, that I'm just never going to fall into that. I walk past something, I'll put it away because you can look at it as lazy. I look at it as something completely different. And we've had this conversation literally like 250,000 times on how that works. You know that I'm still going to show up with all the other stuff. But that's just an example, right? Whereas I could run around every day like that, put everything away. Right, yeah, fuck, she should be good, right? Let's go. What's wrong with you? I've literally done those 5 things that you've been harping on me for all this week. Like, shouldn't we be go time? And then she's like, well, what about all the other fucking 25 things that I've done today? Like the 5 loads of washing and then this, and then, you know, supported you at business, and then got the kids ready for school and did the lunch and all of that. And you sort of, and like, I know that for me, I sit there and just go, yeah, on that front, like I know I'm really shit. I know that, but we also know that where that balance is. We know where that balance is.
As soon as it becomes competition,
Never works.
it's like, and that's what,
Competition is the quickest way to break it down.
and that's what, like, in the high problems, it just melts all that other stuff away because it doesn't really matter. It's like, and like the love language just kind of works through that a little bit. It's like, if her thing is not acts of service, it's physical touch. You fucking no chance anyway. So understanding that can be helpful to understand a bit more about connection, but yeah, like I think just going higher level above all that and just sort of going, you know, communicate, connect.
Yeah, it's good.
Like the lawn can wait.
Yeah.
You know, the lawn's your thing.
Yeah.
The acts of service is your thing. Not hers. And yeah, I think that's where we really need to show up for ourselves and for our partners is
Big one, eh? I mean, you're always learning. You can fucking, I've got so much to learn. Even the other day, I like watch a clip, Jay Shetty puts it up there, and I'm like, fuck, man, like you were a fucking Buddhist or you were a Buddha or whatever it was. Of course, you're a monk. Sorry, that's his story, right? But he's like, him and his partner have all of these funny conversations and whatever, and you can see, like, she's like, you know, you just really annoy me. And this is the conversation, right? It really annoys me that it doesn't matter what, like, I can be sitting there and like, I can say to you, Jay, can you turn the light on? And you just get up and do it. And I'm like, I wouldn't do that. But like, he'll just get up and do it. And she goes, why would you even do that? And he goes, well, first of all, when you ask that question, first thing I think is, you're a brat. But then I get up and do it anyway. He said, because I know in that moment, that's the way that you want to be loved. And I was like, motherfucker. Okay. Like, that was for me. That was like, oh, okay. I've just learned something here. I might use it for me too. So sweet, I can use the way I want to be loved right now. But like, just having that awareness,
High level
to reframe that is like, for me, was sort of like a moment. Like, there's plenty of times where you know that you've been asked to do something and you're just like, are you serious? Like, fucking, you're right there. But just reframing that to go, she just needs this because this is the way that she needs to be loved in this moment.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, like, this is only 3 or 4 weeks ago that I heard this, and I was just like, another one? Like, seriously, another one? Wow. I've got to level up there now too. So it's like, it's this constant evolution, if you want it to be a constant evolution.
Yeah.
Because the moment that it gets to, and I've been there so many times, the moment that it gets to, you just sort of like, this is monotonous.
Yeah.
This is
When you said
monotonous.
that concept of a relationship ceases to be a relationship when one or both parties stop. Contribute. It's not that we both contribute. I love it a bit. It's like, as I said, I told you before, but yeah, it's just it's a time thing, I think. Like it's a work in progress. And I'm a work in progress. So
It's hard shit though, man, because you get so cooked at the end of the day. You just walk in so fried already. The thing I used to do was just go for a walk when I get back. And I wish I'd done more because I only started doing it right at the very end, was go for a walk. And even just like a 15-minute just walk around the block. So I pull up at home, still be on like doing the last work call as I'm pulling the driveway. Literally walk in, still on the phone. Hey, hun, cool. After like not seeing you the whole day. I don't just start it on the shittest tone ever. So what I start doing is go, all right, one, wrap up that call first, then go on a walk for 10, 15 and just completely just like leave the phone in the car and just go for a walk. And I only did it probably in the last few weeks and it helped heaps then. I should have done it sooner. So like that was something that simple, man. Because then when I walked in the door, I was like, oh, hey, I haven't seen you all day. This is sick. How are you, man? And then I cared, but otherwise just walking, oh, that was so shit. And then you hang up, oh, that was so shit. That was such a great shit tone. You know, what a really, really shit place to bring it to straight away when you haven't seen each other all day and you're meant to be like, oh, let's reconnect, you know. And it's more so like, oh, it just brings work all in the door and just brings all that shit up, you know. It's like, leave it outside, decompress it too. So when you walk in, you're actually showing up as a partner and I'm actually meeting your boyfriend, not, you know. So that was what I wish I'd done sooner, but like that's, if anything, a bit of a cautionary tale. Just try and put some things in before. Yeah.
And what,
There's
like,
a
what,
lot of, I wish I had have done in your language right now.
Yeah. Because I intend to do it. And I'm actively, regardless of relationship or not. So
Just don't get hung up on that. I wish I could have. Just reframe that.
and you're learning
I
from it.
will.
You've learned from it.
I was saying I will do that. I definitely took a lot of responsibility for that thing falling apart, but I guess also two to tango, you know.
There's a saying that you shouldn't shoot all over yourself. I should have done this. I should have done that. You're just shooting all over yourself.
Yeah. It's a thing. It's a thing. I just want you to be mindful of the language that
You learn. It sounds like you learned from it, which is a beautiful.
Oh, very great. Yeah, I'm very, very grateful for that. There's a lot of growth in that thing.
one of the things, just thought like the workplace is quite a masculine environment, and it would make sense that the feminine is not really strong in women who work a lot, that don't have a way to disconnect from that. And so, you know, if they're getting home, it's like kids and there's responsibility to work, like they've got a lot on their plate and they're struggling to get out of them, I guess, masculine energy. And so I guess that's one thing that Luke works on heaps and talks about a lot, is like, how can you help them break that masculine energy? And it's like with your energy, and help them. So it's like, I think one of the things is like, if you're having a bit of a blue, just, you know, it's like, just grab them and hug them and just hold them until they, until it's like, you know, until they, Yeah.
It's you know what I mean? It's a staple. You know, kids want to be held.
Yeah.
They want to be.
I think
Oh,
most
it's that energy
most of us
transfer
We
as
all
well.
do.
Yeah, all of us do. Like a lot of guys that first love language is like physical touch, and like I know that's for Sam. And so if you're a bit more aware of that stuff, and it's like, if she starts punching you, maybe let go. But it's
She's ticked it.
Consent, right? Consensual. I had a female friend do it to me today, man, which was really interesting. Like I had it with having a full blood, like having. I was just like, fuck, this is hard right now. I'm really having a melt. I'm pretty overwhelmed at work. This is fucking hectic. And she just gave me a big, just gave me a hug and just said, and I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, no, just wait out. And then after I was like, oh, this is really fucking good. It's what you do when you're a kid, right? You focus on when you're a kid. I do it with my daughter. She runs up and she's like, yeah. Okay. Wanders off, you know. It's like,
it makes your problem just like, this just feels good now. And I don't know, like what were we talking about? Like
Changes the chemistry.
Changes the chemistry, changes how you feel.
Changes the chemistry.
Like we did at the start of the breath work. Like it's
Energy, isn't it?
It's energy. So
Literally changes the
we
chemistry.
had a few peaks today. I was like fucking sprung. Hey, like when I went before that, I was like, wow, I just like probably down a few notches. It was really cool.
yeah, like I said, I'm just super grateful for you guys turning up tonight.
Awesome.
Well, I know you like it, but
No, I mean these guys.
no, yeah, like
You know, I love everything.
but it's like it's. I just want to. The more we have these conversations, the more we learn, and the faster we're going to grow to where women are, in how they think and stuff like that, and how they function. And like I said, the more if you guys can take this to conversations at work and all that sort of stuff, it just starts, the ripple effect starts to happen, and then you start finding out stuff. You're like, what? You want to do that, or you've done that? Really? What was that like? And then your conversations just elevate from there, right? Rather than, oh, geez,
I spent a whole
how about these spanners? They're so bloody expensive. I can't believe Terry bloody dropped that fucking thing, and it's done it up too tight again. And imagine if you're having a conversation about fucking tying up.
You wouldn't believe what we did last night.
Yeah, that's a good icebreaker at work, isn't it?
But we also, it's one of the challenges that we've had here is like, we also have reservations about portraying our partners in a negative light, or saying that we've done these things, because for our entire upbringing, it was bragging, and it was right. It was bragging. We were bragging about. Whereas for me now, it's like, how fucking amazing is this? Like, I'm so grateful. I'm so happy that we did that, and it was super cool. And you don't level up by not talking about it. And so, I think we need to almost dismiss this thing. Obviously, there's probably a consent thing with your partner, but we sort of have this assumption that if we talk about our partners to our mates about our intimacy, we're probably A, embarrassed about how bad we are, or B, we think we're going to make other people see them in a negative light because of that conversation. It's like, obviously there's different ways you can talk about it, but like the conversations that we've had, it's like, oh wow, like for me it just elevates. It elevates you, but it elevates your partner. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, wow, like there's so much more respect there because they have shown the courage to do that. That's what I really like as well. So
Nothing that turns you on more than fucking watching your partner do that. I can tell you that. Finally make that choice too. If it's something that they're looking to break through and really move into that feminine. And like once they can move into that feminine, it's like, you talk about sexiness. Sexiness takes a whole new meaning when it gets to that. It goes from physical to how do you look to embodying the feminine. And there is literally nothing more sexy, in my opinion, than a female in their full feminine, like full feminine. It's fucking very scary for most men if you because it's probably one of the most powerful energies you can come up against. But if you learn how to work with it, it's fucking different. Like the feminine creates. Once they are fully embodying that, like the creator energy, it's, dude, fucking literally goddess like. It's Cleopatra shit. It's very addictive too. It is like I can, if I see you see a female walk past that you can just literally feel that energy. Like it's just like that's fucking hot. And you'd probably say that to you if you're at fucking down there building a house or something like that, and you're like, man, like she's hot. They'd be all like, what? You serious? Like really? Like yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So you're going to go home tonight. Partner's going to ask you, so what did you talk about? That's going to go off in different tangents.
We'll burn that list and never talk about it again. Nothing, honey. We were saying burn it out for a few hours. Yeah, just talk about footy and notice.
You're going to find it really hard to. You might find it really hard to articulate.
I find it hard to articulate it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just go like we talked about stuff that was important to us.
100%.
Unless you need to share it.
I said to I know she's like, how was I saying? We talked about this and that stuff. No, like I said what we talked about, and then I was like, that was a really long conversation. Just talk about those two things. It was like, oh wow, we covered a lot of ground, but we really just talked about two things, really.
Yeah.
So,
On a real quick side note, that story that Josh started, Michael Nick shared today about loneliness. Like I sent him a message and I just so you know, I have never felt that resonated with me so strongly. And in the last 4 weeks, I literally have not felt lonely. Like
that's awesome, man.
I've been here and I've had this sense of connection where I say things in here that I've never ever said to friends and family. And I had a real rough day yesterday when I left here, where I was questioning a lot of things, and I actually rang Chad and explained to him how I was feeling, and it was just that concept of loneliness. That was 4 weeks ago. I was the loneliest human with kids, family, everything, but just lonely. And that story just was mind bending, mate. That was beautiful. Just to not feel, I haven't felt that loneliness the last 4 weeks.
That's awesome.
Been so good. And for the Wednesday mornings and then doubling up, coming back in on the Thursday night, it's just that sense of connection and accountability and accountability to myself, to be honest, because I'm being honest in here. And it's mind bending, mate, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Pleasure, man. That's what we're here for. Yeah, listen, I'm super grateful that you turned up, because we all each add to it. And what you have added to it has been, some guys sort of feel like they take away and they take, but in reality, like, we're all contributing and you're giving as much as you're taking, and that's what this is about. We're about mutual growth, so we're learning as much about from you as you are today. So that's what I love about this place, and the fact that you feel that, mate.
Mind bending.
And so good that you've got, a couple of people who you can reach out to or whatever. That's what it's all about. When you're in that shit spot, that like I said, I didn't have any idea who was going to talk tonight yesterday. It's good to have. It's good to have people who are willing to have a yarn and have some skills as well. So you start meeting and talking to high quality. You start having more nutritious conversations. You start talking to high quality people. That's what this is. That's what we're here for. Is to be around high quality people and shift our state and get more well.
That's a cool conversation. Nutritious conversations. I'd never heard that phrase before. It's like,
Beautiful.
I like that, eh? A nourishing conversation. Isn't that fucking
How
cool?
many toxic conversations do you have?
How many draining ones you have a day, man? And how many energy steves are they?
I should have patented that. That was a couple of years ago. Me and Duncan. I was talking to Duncan one day. You guys don't know Duncan yet, but I said, it just sounds like a really nutritious conversation, right? He said, I just love these nourishing chats that we have. And I was like, yeah, it's a really nutritious conversation. Thanks for listening to the Junto Men's podcast. Our mission is to share high quality information for regular blokes who either want to be better or who might be going through some tough stuff. We really hope you got some value out of listening today. There's an African proverb that says, If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So if you did get some value out of today, we'd love it if you left us a comment, we read them all, you shared it with a mate, or even gave us a 5-star review. We love getting those. If any of what we have spoken about today was interesting to you and you'd like to know more about what we're about and what we do, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or on our website from the links in the notes. We'll hopefully talk to you soon. Cheers.